So, what even is survival? It's quite tough to define what a survival game even is nowadays. Is it a game where ammo and healing items are scarce? Is it managing aspects of your character that are integral to staying alive, like hunger, stamina, thirst, or sleep? Or is it simply just a game where you're fighting against enemies without being able to pause the game and save? It's a tough question to answer because the term survival can be bent in so many ways. This is the problem that a lot of people encounter when they want a survival game. Whether it be survival horror, survival shooter, or survival exploration? Survival is a really broad term that can be slapped onto basically anything, with a system to manage health, stamina, or any other factor in the game that keep your character alive. There is one game that I think nails down all aspects of survival better than any other game I've played. And it's a nifty little game called STALKER Anomaly, or if you want the arguably better and heftier version of it, STALKER Gamma. STALKER is a first-person survival horror game franchise, developed by a Ukrainian game studio, GSC Game World. Originally being a 3-part series before the announcement of STALKER 2, STALKER was never an industry hit. It was always a niche game series that absolutely had a dedicated fan base, and for good reason, but it was never really able to break that initial barrier between the AAA scene and the indie side of the gaming industry. The STALKER game that I prefer most is STALKER Anomaly. Anomaly is a fan-made project that takes the 3 mainline titles and combines it into one game that puts the story of the games in more of a backseat role and puts the core gameplay in front. Anomaly provides you with a balance between hardcore survival, intense and merciless combat, exploration, and some fantastic environmental storytelling. It all combines into a pure survival horror experience that still keeps the magic of the original STALKER games alive, but also introduces new aspects to the game. And with the addition of a small mod pack called Gamma, made by a developer named Grok, Anomaly is brought to new heights. And after spending enough time in the post-apocalyptic wasteland, only known as The Zone, to give my fair and honest take on it, I hope I can give you an idea of why STALKER Anomaly is so popular in 2023, and why it is a terrifying experience, especially to those unfamiliar with it. To understand what's going on within the world of STALKER, we have to go back and look at the first inspirations, or you might even say first renditions of the story. The original concept of The Zone was from an old science fiction novel called Roadside Picnic. It was written by Boris and Arkady Strugatsky, who were both Soviet Russian. In the book, The Zone referred to an area of Earth where extraterrestrials visited Earth and left behind dangerous anomalies and artifacts. This is also where the concept of stalkers comes in. They are more or less the same in all renditions of the story, whether that would be the book, the movie, or the games. They are individuals who would enter the zone to recover these highly dangerous but invaluable objects for their own means, whether it be research, money, or a morbid fascination. In the games, however, stalkers are way more brutal, splitting off into factions and groups depending on their aligning beliefs. Your faction shapes up a lot of your experience in STALKER Anomaly. While one faction might be friendly to you, another will shoot at you on sight. Having these factions all live in the zone is tough to deal with, as again, your faction determines who are your friends and who are your enemies. Technically, you could always just be a loner. The factions are all spread out in the world. Each stalker has their own missions to accomplish, and it's your choice to help others, kill others, or explore your way through the zone, with or without companions. STALKER Anomaly and the Stalker games are, in general, very adamant about giving the player agency and freedom. From the moment you arrive at one of the starting locations, you can choose what to do, which jobs to complete, who to help, who to kill, and where to go. This game offers incredible freedom for you. The zone in Stalker is a bit challenging to put into words. It's an incredibly dangerous, poisonous part of the world that is plagued with unexplainable anomalies, hostile factions, and these artifacts born from anomalies. The zone is also left very ambiguous and vague, which encourages players to seek information on it for themselves, through the countless NPCs around the world. There are parts of the map that are incredibly hard to survive in. The more north you go, the more dangerous it gets. Each distinct area in the zone also has its own gimmick and atmosphere that all build up into this breathing, living, poisonous and treacherous radioactive wasteland, infested by monsters, mutants, and other factions. The zone is as intense as it gets. And with the game's incredible sound design and haunting atmosphere that lingers everywhere you go, this place makes you feel terrified at the sound of a branch breaking nearby, at the sound of a potential stalker attacking you, or a growl from a mutated animal. This place is so messed up that even the outside world seems to be terrified of it.
It's all an illusion. The fact that the zone is under lock and the army has all the exits in and out sealed. Think about it. Nowadays, artifacts and rare specimens from the zone can be found all over the world. And yet your fellow stalkers never have a shortage of canned meat, vodka, ammo, or equipment. Somebody's got to be responsible for all of that, right?
Open world exploration is one of the biggest selling points of STALKER Anomaly. The world is not huge by any means, yet it still contains so much. It's easy to look at your PDA and scroll from one side of the map to the other, and make the distinction that the map is small. But minutes later, you could be walking for an hour straight trying to scavenge for supplies or finding a shelter during a... After you've spent enough time in the zone carrying out missions, doing favors for others, you quickly start to realize how large the zone is. Sure, it might not be as big as other AAA open worlds, but it still feels large in the moment, and if I have to make the choice between an open world that is big just for the sake of being big, or an open world that is not large on paper but contains so much for you to do, I'm always going to choose the second option. The zone is filled with stalkers that are always ready to help you out and give you work. There's so many possibilities for you to fulfill, so many opportunities to take up. Stalker is the prime example of how to fill up a world with meaningful tasks. The possible quests you can embark on always feel like there's intent behind it. No mission feels empty, no assignment feels too large or too small to accomplish. This game is fantastic at making everything feel like there's a purpose behind it. I've been using weapons that barely even function anymore. I'm tired, I'm thirsty. I've got a million things to do, but never feel stressed out all at once. While the usual Ubisoft games bombard you with tasks and quests with 14 objective markers blinding your screen, in Stalker, you choose what you want to do. There hasn't been a single moment where I felt like I was forced to do something. Everything is in your hands. This is further enhanced by the crafting and repairing aspects of this game, You can find dozens of guns lying around on bodies and stashes, but about 95% of the time, they're broken. Survival in Stalker feels incredibly intuitive. Managing health, stamina, hunger, thirst, sleepiness, or any other thing has always felt tedious to me in other games. Yet, taking that sip of water once in a while in Stalker and trying to prevent radiation poisoning by downing vodka feels natural in this game. All of it makes sense. It's logical that I need to manage so many aspects in a game like this. The survival perfectly counteracts the other areas of this game. The factions, the open world, the threat of danger behind any corner. I still remember the first time I got into a full-on 1v5 gunfight. It was by far some of the most intense but fun gameplay I've had in recent memory. I got a job from my PDA's task list about a stalker who had snuck into a dude's camp, killed his buddy, and seemingly ran away. My job was to avenge him. So I found his team, saved in a nearby farm, and went to battle. After I'd fired my very limited amount of ammo that I had left in my half-broken AK, I quickly found out how many stalkers were actually there. I was instantly rushed by 5 or 6 other stalkers, simultaneously while I tried to take down the bastard I was tasked to kill. But after I got out of that gunfight and made it back to the farm, I instantly yearned for more. But over the course of my playthrough, I've quickly found out that the most intriguing moments in Stalker aren't just combat sections and encounters. In fact, my most prominent memories of this game were moments of pure isolation, wandering through the night with nothing but a green glow stick lighting my way, and the only other things that I could see in the world were illuminated by lightning striking down, and seeing burner anomalies streak their way through the environment. But behind all of this, Stalker somehow excels at making you feel lonely. One of the crucial differences between Strugatsky's novel and the Stalker games is where the location of the story takes place, aka the Zone. In the original novel, it's set in a fictional place in Canada, but in the games it's set in Chernobyl, Ukraine. This change is one of the most important things that end up making the world so much more interesting, and at the same time, terrifying. I've always been incredibly fascinated with Chernobyl. Ever since I took my first steps into the outskirts of Pripyat with Macmillan in Call of Duty 4, I've always been wondering what actually happened there, and how bad it truly was. Stalker takes what happened, and turns it on its head as it introduces anomalies and artifacts, and of course the factions. The Chernobyl incident is one of history's most terrifying moments, at least in my opinion, and the aftermath is equally as interesting as the events themselves. Watching people explore the abandoned parts of Chernobyl years after the incident is not only humbling, but incredibly intriguing. And being able to do that in Stalker, even if it wasn't the same in real life, is still incredibly fascinating. If not an even cooler experience, because the Zone becomes so much more with the addition of these anomalies and artifacts. Exploring the ruins of Chernobyl is already awesome, but having these layers of terror, danger, and uncanny entities being scattered around the world is something that anyone can become enthralled with. The significance that the anomalies hold over the Zone in Stalker is immense, not only in the physical ways that they impact the world, but also in terms of atmosphere and the characters. The primary motives for stalkers in the Zone are to profit off of the artifacts that come about because of the anomalies, and seeing the impact that artifacts and anomalies, and the crazy things that they all end up creating, is a fascinating concept that very few games actually explore. And the games that do are most often than not directly inspired by Stalker. The Zone is undeniably terrifying in some ways, but it also manages to capture the beauty of a sunrise or the aftermath of a devastating storm. And I tend to notice these things after experiencing something more impactful, stuff like a gunfight, a storm, Something that makes you nervous in the moment, but when that clear sky settles in, when that sun comes up after a dark night, it's a breath of fresh air. It's undeniable that Stalker is still a horror game, whether it's through the atmosphere or any other aspect that's presented in the game. Those moments of hearing nothing but your own footsteps at the dead of night are some of the most tense moments in this game. And you can call me paranoid, but whether it's a mutant, a chimera, or another stalker, there's always a possibility of something being nearby that poses a threat. And the thing is, the physical entities in this game aren't even necessarily the scariest parts. The zone is filled with radiation and anomalies that will kill you incredibly quickly if you get too close to them. It's a brutal place to be. The zone simply doesn't care about you. And there's very few things that can bring you any sort of comfort in this world. This world is beyond treacherous. Anything and everything can kill you, whether it be your fellow stalkers or the mutated beasts that are in every area of the game, forcing you to essentially be alone for the majority of your playthrough. Stalker is incredibly good at emulating feelings of loneliness. Whether it's a moment like traveling through a dark forest on a rainy day, or sitting down by the bonfire to heal, you're always alone in this world. Stalker's atmosphere is masterfully crafted. It's one of the few that's actively made me feel terrified and alert in one moment, and feel comfort in the next. Stalker blurs the line between reality and science fiction so damn well. It's almost uncanny how well everything is crafted in this game. And of course, it might not be the most polished game out there, but it will absolutely intrigue you in one moment and terrify you in the next. Stalker has always given me the same dread as a lot of Lovecraftian stories. Technically, Stalker isn't cosmic horror. For something to be cosmic horror, you need to be dealing with things that are otherworldly. But it still makes some sense, as the original novel was very much a Lovecraftian cosmic horror story. Obviously, it's not the same. But Stalker still gives you that cosmic horror-ish vibe. But even if Stalker isn't a direct type of horror, it still manages to create an incredible atmosphere that feels unexplainable, dangerous, unknown, and hostile, but also gives us those same feelings of comfort around a bonfire, with a fellow stalker playing a guitar. Those moments of comfort from meeting different NPCs to having these quiet moments are a fantastic contrast to the otherworldly feeling of horror that the zone presents. This all is why Stalker feels different. I've been trying to record this outro for like 30 minutes, I'm sick of it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, or subscribe. It is greatly appreciated and you can unsubscribe anytime. This year on YouTube has definitely been the toughest one, but also my best one yet. And this video in particular has been a bit longer and more in depth than my previous ones, and I want to commit to that. I want to make longer and better content for you guys to enjoy, and also because it just feels good to make that 30-minute analysis video on a game that you really like. By the time this video goes out, it should be the 27th or the 28th of December, which means Christmas has gone by, but still, Merry Christmas. It's a bit late to say that, that's fine. And Happy New Year's. Spend some time with your family, friends, whoever. Play some games, and enjoy yourselves. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.